All right. Hi, everyone. I am so excited to be here and continue some of the great conversations that we've all been having around AI and customer engagement, and how do we leverage AI effectively to provide our HCPs with meaningful, scalable experiences. So I hope most of us are here today because we believe in the immense potential that AI has to improve the way we work, to improve the way we engage our customers, and most importantly, to improve the way we serve patients and improve their lives. However, when I go on LinkedIn or when I go read the news, it seems that every week or two I come across headlines like these, some of which we also saw earlier today. So almost half of companies will abandon most of their AI pilots this year, which is up from 17% last year. Up to 95% of Gen AI pilots are failing to provide the ROI or value that we expected from them. It is predicted that over 40% of agentic AI pilots will be abandoned in the next couple of years. I'm from Canada, and Air Canada, which is our national airline, they deployed an AI chatbot a couple of years ago. Now, this chatbot started giving its customers inaccurate information, primarily due to hallucinations. And one of the customers took Air Canada to court, saying, "You owe me this reimbursement because your AI chatbot told me that I was eligible for it." Air Canada tried to get out of it, saying, we're not liable for our agents, including AI chatbots, inaccurate representation, but the judge ruled otherwise, and they had to pay the customer. So they shut down the pilot of their AI chatbot. We know that organizations have successfully implemented chatbots, so it's clearly not the technology. And pharma is definitely not immune. So we see the same trend, despite the compelling use cases like faster content generation, personalized content, and better segmentation. So while there are many reasons that AI pilots can fail, today I'd like to focus on a few that I've personally seen in my work and also heard about from colleagues. First and foremost, as we've heard a few times today, is a lack of clear business objective, or a lack of clear value that we can bring to our customers. If we don't define what that is, if we don't define how we're going to measure it, it is unlikely that we're going to have a successful AI deployment. The next reason that I see happen quite often is no clear ownership or governance structure, right? Who owns the technology? Who owns the training? Who owns the comms? If that's not clear, then it is going to be very hard for you to scale your AI tool or technology that you're trying to implement. Now, in addition to ownership, it's just as important to have proper governance. And often we don't take the time to define that either. Like, what are the guardrails we're putting in place to make sure that AI is being used in an ethical manner and compliant manner as well? Next, and this is a big one as well, inadequate change management. It doesn't matter how good your technology, it doesn't matter how much value it can add, but if you don't spend the adequate time to communicating its value and having a rollout plan, it's not going to succeed. So one of the examples I can think of is, when we were rolling out digital and omnichannel across the organization, we decided to put in a goal for sales reps, like you have to use digital, and we thought, this is great. If we put it in their goals, they're gonna do it. And guess what? They did do it. They used a lot of digital, but we found that they were sending the same emails to the same customers just so they could kind of check that box, like, yeah, this is my volume of digital engagement that I've done. So clearly, if we don't take the time to have our teams understand what is the value behind what I'm doing, that is definitely going to result in a lot of cultural resistance, or in this case, we unknowingly made our customer experience even worse. Next, lack of integration into our existing workflows or infrastructure. So if you just bolt on an AI-powered solution onto your infrastructure without thinking about whether it's going to be successful at reading the information, well, that's probably not going to result in a very successful AI tool or outputs for you. Also underestimating how difficult this might be for teams to see how this AI fits into their daily workflows. So they might not understand, like, if you're giving me an AI-powered insights or dashboards, when am I using it? Am I using it for pre-call planning? Am I using it after I've done my interaction? So it's really important to think about both of these things when we are rolling out our technology or tool. And last, but definitely not least, as we've heard today time and time again, having accessible and high-quality data is key. If we don't have this, our AI tool or technology will fail. So an example that I want to mention is IBM and MD Anderson Cancer Centers, collaboration that they did. MD Anderson is based in the US, and IBM used its supercomputer, Watson, and wanted to use it to come up with an oncology expert advisor. So the aim was that this technology would be trained on all of the latest cancer care research, and it would read patient data and give you a diagnosis and also recommend treatments or a treatment plan for you. Now, what happened was, soon thereafter, this technology started giving inaccurate diagnoses and potentially harmful treatment recommendations. So after investing 5 years and $62 million, MD Anderson decided to scrap the pilot before it was used on a single real patient. What went wrong? It was data accessibility and data quality. So during this time, MD Anderson had implemented a new electronic health record system, and the AI tool was unable to read patient data from it. Also, the main source of information for this technology is physician's notes or patient history. And these are not structured, they are not consistent, even when you can read them because they're not written down, they're typed in, but they still don't have the structure and consistency needed for the AI to be able to read the data and provide useful insights from it. So now that we've seen some ways or reasons why AI tools or pilots can fail, what is it that those organizations or teams who are successful at rolling out AI across the organization, what are they doing differently? What is their recipe for success? So let's take a look. So the first thing that they're doing differently is starting with problems, not pilots. And what that means is, before they even think about what tool they're going to use, what technology they're going to use, they are identifying what their physicians' biggest pain points are, what their business challenges are that they can help address using AI. So it's really important to define what that is. So for instance, if we're talking about customer engagement, do we want insights faster, or do we want to be able to react in real time to our customers' need? How are we going to measure success? Is it time saved by reps by not having to manually analyze dashboards, or is it customer satisfaction that we are aiming to achieve based on more targeted and personalized communication? So those who are able to solve a real business or customer problem are much more likely to see adoption of that AI technology. So a prime example is, even before ChatGPT made AI super popular, we started using next best action in the pharma industry. And this was, adopted quite successfully, I'll say. Even if we weren't ready from a data perspective, we still saw the value in using this tool and the immense time that it saved the reps, but also the targeted, the personalized recommendations that it gave based on all our previous interactions that we had with the physicians. The next thing these AI winners do differently is fixing their data foundation. So I'm not sure how sold I am on this analogy, but if data indeed is like oil, then I would say most companies' data is like unrefined oil. It's full of impurities, it's locked in barrels no one can access, or it's scattered in unknown locations. So lack of data readiness is definitely a deal breaker for AI adoption. And we saw this in the example with IBM and MD Anderson pilot. So we have to put in the time to make sure our data is clean and organized, it's accessible, and more importantly, it's relevant for the use case that we're aiming to use it for. Next, I just want to mention that companies who thrive with AI typically do have very strong data governance as well, and of course, strong infrastructure, well-defined data pipelines, data warehouses, data lakes, and clarity on what kind of data they want to get and what kind of data they're empowering the field teams to get as well. Next thing that winners do differently, or at least do, is building with human AI collaboration in mind. So the goal is to augment, not replace humans. We all know that, at least from what we know now, AI works best when humans are in the loop, especially when we think about our pharma customer engagement use cases, where face-to-face interaction is still a vastly preferred channel, is still a high-impact channel. Trust, credibility, and connection are essential for pharma customer experience and customer engagement. So while AI is great for making recommendations, it's really the reps who should be at the center of the decision-making and the orchestration. Next, I want to give you an example of a success story that brings together a lot of these principles. So what Takeda Oncology team did is come up with a clear objective of what they wanted to achieve. So they said, we want to empower our reps to educate stakeholders on the differentiated value of our medicines in a highly competitive oncology field. So what they did to achieve this is they partnered with ZS to develop contextually relevant messages that would best resonate with their HCPs. And I also like this example because they trained it on data not based on segmentation using factors like market share that can be highly irrelevant, but they actually fine-tuned the AI from individual treatment patterns rather than using the other typical ones that we tend to use, like prescribing behavior, et cetera. So this enabled them to provide the field teams with relevant messaging, the next best action to take, and as a bonus, it also gave them real-world insights on different patient subpopulations that these physicians might treat, and also their treatment preferences when it comes to these populations. This solution continues to use both machine learning models and human feedback to continue to make it even better and iterating on it. So what was the outcome? The outcome was increased understanding of the HCP and patient journey. The business outcome was that the reps were able to save time, they were able to get more relevant messaging, and more importantly, they were able to get more reach because now the physicians actually wanted to talk to them because they were having these meaningful, valuable conversations with them. And this led to high engagement and utilization. And one of the best signs of success, other teams wanted this capability for themselves too. So this was a prime example of how when you bring together the different principles, then you can definitely have a successful rollout of your AI technology. So I think by now we've seen that we really do have to think of AI and implementing these tools as a business transformation, as an organizational transformation, rather than just a technology deployment. The companies who are getting AI right aren't necessarily the ones with the biggest budgets or the latest technology. They're the ones who are using the proven frameworks, measuring systematically, and treating AI implementation as an organizational transformation. There are three factors which I think are key in achieving this. The first one is culture. Are we building a culture where teams feel safe to experiment, to share their learnings, not only to share their successes, but also their failures as part of the learnings for how we can improve? So that's number one, building that culture, that speak-up culture, that experimentation culture, as we heard earlier today. The next one is alignment. And while cross-functional alignment is very, very important, we need to make sure that commercial, IT, compliance, everyone is working toward the same goals, everyone is involved early. That is very, very important. But I think just as important is having leadership alignment. And not just leadership alignment, but leadership endorsement for AI. The teams really need to see that, yes, this is something the leader, the organizations, they are all bought into this. Leaders need to put in the effort along with their teams to define what is our objective in doing this. Is it, cost efficiency? Is it better customer satisfaction? That all needs to be defined by the entire organization, including leadership, and they need to be vocal about their endorsement of these technologies. And last but not least, governance. So governance not only includes how this tool fits into our day-to-day work for different teams. Teams understand where this fits into their workflows, how is it making their work more valuable. But governance also includes, of course, data governance and AI governance, and making sure that we have guardrails in place, but also that the organization is aware of them. So for example, at AstraZeneca, like most places, we have an internal instance of ChatGPT. Now, this is great that we've given everyone this tool to use, but there are guidelines, and we have to make sure that everyone's aware. So for example, we're not allowed to generate images of specific people, right? I can't generate an image of Dr. Shaima saying, oh, this product is great, right? And also, we have guidelines that, yes, you can upload confidential data into our internal ChatGPT, but you cannot do it when the web search feature is turned on. So who is making sure that everyone is trained on this and everyone's using the technology in a compliant way? So one thing, and I might be a little bit biased, that I think AstraZeneca is doing really well in terms of encouraging and getting people to become upskilled in AI and feeling empowered and confident to use our AI tools, is that they have this internal training program called Thriving in the Age of AI. And there's a few ways that they're making this work quite well. One of them is by gamifying the process. So you guys may see on LinkedIn some of my AstraZeneca colleagues, they might say, oh, I got my gold certification, or oh, I got my platinum certification, right? So it's some healthy competition that encourages us to get more and more proficient in the use of AI. The next thing is mandating the training, right? So all of us by the end of this year have to be at least a silver level certified. And last but not least, also incentivizing your training, right? So depending on which level we're at, we get different incentives. So for example, once you complete your silver certification, you get access to an agent builder. You can play around with it. You can even come up with agents that might help simplify some of your daily, more redundant task flows, right? So yeah, those are some of the ways in which you can help your organization upskill. All right, so if you remember nothing else from my presentation today, I would like you to remember these 5 things that you can do to start operationalizing AI successfully across your organization. First and foremost, define the business problem and the measurable impact that you want to have. That leads you to strategic clarity. Next, make sure you unify and govern your data before piloting. So make sure you are ready with accessible, high-quality, relevant data for your AI use cases. Third, embed AI into your existing systems and roles. So don't try to bolt something on and have to build processes around it, but see how AI can fit naturally into your workflows, at least in the beginning, and see how it can start adding value immediately. Next thing, really focus on the change management, change enablement. Reskill, communicate, reinforce the behavior change as much as possible. And last but not least, make sure you are measuring, you are iterating. It's about progress, not perfection. Make sure you're tracking your ROI, you're capturing your feedback, and ultimately scaling success. And that is all from me. Thank you, and I think we have a couple of minutes for questions, so maybe I can take 1 or 2 questions. Or if it was crystal clear, that's fine too. I'm happy to give everyone a couple of minutes. What, no? Oh, I see a question up here.
Just a question on the training curriculum that you had with the silver and gold. Was it like an external training vendor or internally built training content?
It's internally built. So we actually hired like leads for AI upskilling who report into like our global head for AI platforms and services. And they built this in collaboration with a lot of other teams, as you can imagine, like our global learning and development teams. And that's how they came up with it. Yeah. Another question up here?
Sorry. Shall I go on from here, the other side?
I've got it. Good. Go ahead.
All good? Okay. Which function in AstraZeneca owns the roadmap for AI in the company? Is it coming from digital and data, coming from the franchises or the global teams, or which function owns the strategy?
Whew, that's a good question. Okay, so I would say the answer is multifaceted, right? In terms of who owns the technology, it is IT. But it is the business teams who are coming up with the use cases and telling IT, like, this is what we need to solve. So I like to think we're getting pretty good at that. So the business challenges, come from the business, and then IT is the one who does the analysis of. So we started doing this year again on AI, where we did a technical assessment or inventory. We looked at, okay, what do we already have that we can start using, but what else is it that we can bring in? And IT kind of owns that technical deployment, but the business owns, I'll say, the use case and the training.
So real quick, on your list of 5, I think number 2 was the data question. Do you have to go back and fix data? And what's been sort of the barriers to doing that or issues around that?
That's a great question. So I would say yes, there was definitely some going back and fixing, but I think most of what we did, and we started about a year ago, was actually forward thinking, right? We started thinking about what kind of data is it that we want to get, right? So a lot of people talked, for example, about content tagging. So we started doing that. We started tagging every single piece of our content so we would have valuable information, right? And then we started even changing the way we approach our customer journeys. So before we used to have these big, long journeys, like if the customer does this, then you do this, then you do this. And we found that, customers rarely ever follow things in the order you think they will, right? So we cut that down. We made it into smaller micro journeys. So if the physician reacted one way to your content, you could quickly pivot and send a different content or have a different engagement with them as necessary. And then we started measuring that data as well, like what are they actually interested in? So it was a combination. I would say less going back and fixing, although there was definitely some of that, but more forward thinking and what kind of data do we need to start getting?
Thanks.